Everything's going like good.
Yeah.
Well, then, of course, grandfather, that's John Longhurst, son of John Longhurst and Mary Green, married Rose Cusack.
Rose Cusack. Now, this happened down around Pambula.
That's Pambula.
Now, the person you're talking about is the son of John Longhurst.
The son of the John Longhurst, the convict, and Mary Green.
Yes, and he married a woman named Rose.
Well, apparently, they moved down from around Maruya down to Pambula on the south coast, and that's where John Longhurst, our grandfather, married Rose Cusack in Pambula.
Oh, in Pambula.
Right, and then of course.
Now that was the Cranky Jack that you were talking about.
Cranky Jack, our grandfather.
And that was Dad's mother, and father. Dad's mother.
Dad's mother and father.
Stan Longhurst.
Yeah, Rose Cusack. And she was a Cusack family who came from around 6 Mile, if you've heard of that place before, down around the Box Range, and that's the other side of Pambula, and on the Wyndham Road. Now, from what I've been able to fathom out, there were, in that Cusack family, there was grandma, that was Rose, and then there was Joan, that's Auntie Jane, she lived at 6 Mile and ran the Peakvale Post Office and had a son, Bert. Then there was...
That was a sneaky one.
That was one of those where people prefer not to discuss the whereabouts, the reasons. We'll leave that alone. Oh. And then she had they had two brothers. There was Uncle Bill Cusack and Uncle Joe Cusack. And I remember those two men quite well. Mainly, I think it was Uncle Joe, because he used to ride his horse from Pambula up to Beagle when we were kids growing up in Gipp Street. He'd tie the horse up to the front gate. He always wore leather leggings and a big white hat. And he'd come in and have a cup of tea, and he'd strain the tea through his moustache, and he used to curl the end of his moustache like that as he talked to you. Well, apparently he must have been the eldest in the Cusack family, because when he died, he seemed to have control over all the money and the land and everything, and there was bloody hell to play about his will. It went on for years. They used to have meetings at home, and me being the bloody sticky beak, I used to listen to all these conversations about splitting up Uncle Joe's property. Oh, I don't know how long it went on for, and whether it ever got settled or not, I'm bugger to find out.
Did you say Uncle Joe?
Uncle Joe Cusack.
Cusack,
Grandma Longhurst's brother.
Brother,
yeah.
He was a pretty wealthy sort of bloke.
Well, apparently, I think he...
Gold or something?
No, I think he was the eldest of the Cusack family.
Oh, I see, you explained that before, sorry.
And then, like, his father would be great-grandfather, the great-grandfather Cusack, had all this land around Box Range and 6 Mile, it probably got it as a grant or something like that.
I remember Dad talking about it.
Yeah, and that's where our grandma came from, that Cusack family. Anyway, I remember quite distinctly they were trying to settle this will, and they had these meetings, and somebody appeared from out of the Western Australia, and apparently she was another long-lost sister, Auntie Senior, I think she was called, and she seemed to upset the whole bloody will then, and but whatever happened with that, I don't know, and I'm not particularly wanting to know, but they must have been, she said, but
caused a bit of a family squabble.
That's right, yeah, a bit of a, well, money always buggers family relationships up anyway, so if we could get to the stage where we do without it, we'd all be a lot happier.
Oh, it's handy to have around the place.
Oh, it's
if you got the beyond out his straws.
That's right, I
it's good to have
be able to buy a pint of milk and loaf of bread, and I suppose they had 4 bloody convicts and everything like that. But anyway, that's the story of Grandma Longhurst and John Longhurst. That's our grandparents. Now, they had children. I remember them more well. There was, there was, there was Dad, who was the eldest.
That's right. Stan, Dad, he was the eldest, and was it not 10 years later there was Rita?
No, well, Dad was born in 1900. We always knew how old he was. That's one thing we knew about him. but he was always known as Stan. See that name John coming out all the time? And then there
John Stanley.
John Stanley, and then there was Uncle Frank, and he was in the police force. He was born a bit after Dad, and then I think Phyllis was the next one, Auntie Phyllis, who married Joe Dickerson, and
That's
then
right.
there was Joseph. He was in between there, I think, after Frank, I think, Joseph, who was killed with them in a pushbike accident at Roselle, who was staying there, and a little bit more I can bring in about him later on. And then Phyllis, and then Rita, and then Eric, who was the youngest. Eric and I sort of grew up together. He was not much older than me, and we were always mistaken for brothers, Eric and I. We had a great relationship, Eric and I. Actually, I was groomsman at Eric's wedding.
Yeah, I remember Eric very well. He was a good bloke.
We were great friends. We used to fight like bugger every now and then, but we had some nice times when we were working together with Dad in the furniture factory, and we always had a beer when we knocked off at the Hotel Clare in Broadway alongside Tooth's Brewery.
That's where they used to have the kegs on top of the counter.
That's right, yes. It was really nice beers there. Now, let me see. Now, we're getting down to Dad, Stan, John Stanley. Now, a little bit of a story about Dad, how he came to meet our mother.
Well, can we go back to Wentworth where he was in the bank over there?
Oh, that's right. Now, that's right. Well, there we go. Apparently, Dad, hiding his convict past, managed to get a job in the bank in Canberra, and it was called the ABC Bank, which was the Australian Bank of Commerce, which was one of the earliest established banks in Australia, and was widely, had branches all over New South Wales. Well, Dad got a job in the bank when he was 16 in Canberra, and of course in those days, when you joined the bank, they owned you. That was it.
They still do, don't they?
Well, they own you either one way or the bloody other. You work for them, they own you, and if you do with them, they own you bloody sort more.
Yes.
Anyway, Dad worked for that bank there, then when he was 16, they sent him out to Wentworth. Well, you couldn't possibly, in just checking New South Wales, you couldn't get a town further away from Canberra than bloody Wentworth, out at the junction of the Murray and the Darling River. So there's a young man there, being sent as far away from home as the bloody bank could look at.
And of course,
whether he played up in the bank and that was punished or not, we were never told.
Sounds like a Shanghai job to me.
I'd say he might have sort of...
And to make matters worse, he played Australian rules, didn't he?
I don't know. He may have stayed out there because Wentworth is fairly close to Victoria. He probably did play that stupid bloody game.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I think he broke his leg or his arm or something.
Yeah, it's a good kick up the arse,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
But he broke his leg or his arm or something playing football out of Wentworth. Anyway, he was in the bank at Wentworth there for quite some time.
He broke his leg, sorry.
Yeah, he broke his leg, right?
Yeah.
But he broke his leg playing football. But being in the bank there, and the young man, he met the young ladies of Wentworth, and I believe he became engaged to someone at Wentworth. I don't know the person's name or not. I know that two of my sisters know it, but you might get that out of them sometime.
Yeah, we'll put that on the film later.
Sheila and Dill know who she was, more about it than what I did.
Yeah.
But anyway, Dad met this young lady and they became engaged, and he broke his leg playing football, so he was sent home to
Bega,
to Bega, because his mother and father, his grandmother and grandfather, had moved from Canberra up to Bega at that time. They were shear farming on a dairy farm at Tarraganda, owned by the people named Wren. Later on, they moved across the river to Kirby's farm at Rosehill.
What stake did they have on that Kirby's farm?
In Kirby's farm,
shear farming.
They were shear farming, one of those old feudal systems where they milked over 100 cows by hand, and then they set the milk. They separated the cream, sent the cream to the Bega butter factory. It was made into butter and sold, and then each month the Kirby family received a cheque according to the amount of cream that was produced, and grandfather got a quarter of that, and the Kirbys got 3/4 of it.
Was it a shear farming agreement?
That's the usual shear farming arrangement in those years.
Totally unfair, wasn't it?
So the Kirby men rode horses round and drank tea at Grandma's house
and wore those
Bonds
top
and
hats and
wore
bullshit
top
their way
hats and
around the
had
place.
beards and never did a day's bloody work in their life, and they had share farmers working for them. That was the system in those days. Anyway,
So I call the rough end of the pineapple.
that's quite right, yes. That was the hangover of the medieval system in England, and fortunately we've been able to get rid of that bloody crap out of Australian society.
Well, a lot of it's still there, but
Oh, yeah,
most
but
of it's gone.
Yeah,
though.
well, a hell of a lot of it's gone, thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you for that.
Yes, that's right. Anyway, Dad arrived back in Bega and with the broken leg, wasn't
He had a broken leg, yes. I
He
forget
came
which
back
leg
to-
it was, but
yeah,
that doesn't matter much.
Yeah, but anyway,
He went
I
back
don't
to Bega.
I don't know what position he played in the bloody football team, but anyway.
No, that wasn't football, so who
No, but
cares,
that's jumping around.
Yeah.
So haven't even got a decent goal post. And the little bloke in white comes out and sticks his fingers up in the air and you don't know what he's doing.
Yeah, and they cheat too. They knock
do
the
that,
ball
don't they?
on and forward
Yeah.
passes and all the rest of it. So it's just
Yeah.
bloody garbage.
God, it's imported from miles. No wonder it's a bucket up game.
Yeah, because all these Mexicans, you know, they all clear out of Melbourne to get away from that.
That's right, yeah, and they go to church every Sunday at the MCG.
Yes.
Anyway, now Dad come back to Bega to recuperate from this football accident, and I suppose he would have been around about 21 or 8, 19, 20, 21 at the time. And anyway, he knew a few mates around Bega, of course, having grown up in that area. And I'm not quite sure who the mate was, but I say it was Ted Whalen, who had a garage down there.
Garage, I remember that
Yeah,
name,
because I know Ted Whalen was one of Mum's boyfriends.
yeah.
But she told me she used to.
Yeah.
Grandma Prescott, who was Mum's mother, was a fairly strict lady in those days, and she kept those girls under control. But Mum told me she had 2 loose palings in the back fence. She used to clear out through these palings when Grandma wasn't looking and go out with Ted Whalen. Yeah, that's a bit you didn't know about, isn't it?
I didn't know about that.
I could tell lots of more stories
Yes,
about Mum
yes.
like that. Anyway, Mum was in Bega, of course, and well-known young lady in Bega. She had done her training in Sydney in tailoring or dressmaking.
Did she? Yes.
Yes.
That's right.
Oh, yes, she went to Sydney in those
Because
days.
my mum was 12, I was 12 when mum passed away.
Yeah.
Didn't know her all that well at all.
No, well, because me being the second eldest in the family, I knew Mum very well.
That's right.
Probably, you know, more so than what Brian would have done.
Yeah.
Anyway, she was had a magnificent voice. Really
She certainly did. I
Yeah.
remember singing.
A really magnificent voice. I went back to a reunion down in Bega a few years back and met a few women that grew up with Mum, and she said, "Who are you?" Oh, Pat Longhurst. Well, are you one of Beryl's boys? So, that's with Mum. And for the whole weekend, I was not Pat Longhurst. That's Beryl's boy, and they all knew Mum so well. And that was the first thing they all spoke to us about, was what a beautiful voice she had, and that she could have gone a long way in the opera had she
What type of voice would you say she had?
a contralto.
Contralto, that's very
Yeah.
highbrow sort of
That's
something.
right. I don't know what it meant, but that's
No, neither do I, but anyhow, it sounds pretty good.
yeah,
yes.
it sounds terrific. But
Yeah.
she did. She had a beautiful voice. Not only did Mum have a beautiful voice, she had a love of music, and I think she's spread that amongst all of us, because I certainly had a love of
So have I, too.
music. I know
Slim Dusty and everything.
most of the family had, but she always sang. But anyway, that's getting sort of digressing a little bit.
Yeah.
But so Mum was very popular around town because she told me all the boyfriends she had, and I know Teddy Whalen was one of them. And there was a concert on in Bega, in the Bega School of Arts. I think it was in aid of the church, probably St Patrick's Night concert or something like that. And anyway, Ted Whalen said to them, "Come along to this concert because there's some good talent around there, and some of the fellas are pretty good looking." So anyway, they went to this concert in Bega this night, and Mum was the star of the concert with her beautiful voice. And